How far do you actually have to look to find social conflict? In other words, how far do you have to look in your social experience to find where there's areas of conflict or areas where there's misunderstanding, areas where there's room for argument, there's room for disagreement? They're all over the place, right? And if you've never been in social media, you probably don't know the level of conflict that's there. If you are in social media, if you're watching this in social media, look down, look up, conflict is right there. What do we do with that? When we think about our social experience is made up of the people that are not part of our family, not part of our profession. They're just everybody else that's part of who we are, part of what we do, and it's in so many different facets of our life. We have a digital presence, right? That's the social context of social media, the digital presence that we have. But then we also have the social presence that we have with people, whether it's in our church or whether it's with other things that we're involved in, other groups that we're a part of. These are all part of our social experience. And because our social experience is made up of other people, in lies conflict. It will always be present. It's always there. When I think about the social experience for me, the very first thing that I always think about in terms of conflict is, first of all, is this really worth it? How valuable is this to me? How big of a deal is this to me? If it is, then okay, I'll get into the mix. I'll get into the stir. I don't think of it, however, in the same way as I think of in my personal experience. In my personal experience, these people are very important to me. And so my value of these people, my own personal value of them, is much higher, meaning that I'm far more willing to be far more patient and far more understanding, because these are the relationships that are going to be most valuable to me over time. Now, that doesn't mean in my social experience that I'm going to mistreat those people or do anything that is outside of my own personal character. That wouldn't be right. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what the social experience is all about. It simply means that the time that I have to devote to that, because this part over here, deeply involved in the relationships of the personal experience, is a very time-consuming process. Do I have the time to devote over here? That's why it has to come down to, how big of a deal is this to me? How valuable is this to me? In fact, the entire social experience, how valuable is this to me? When I think about my social experience, and if I don't have a great deal of time to devote to it, I have to consider, is this really worth being part of? That's a very real question. That's where I want you to focus in the social experience. When we think about the social context, the social conflicts that might arise, that might be part, again, whether it's digital, whether it's in person, really doesn't matter. If I don't have the time to make the important distinctions here, much easier in the digital world to throw a thought out there, to throw a concept out there that might be controversial. But what's going to gravitate to that are the people who think like you do. That's where you want to spend your time. Don't get bogged down in arguing with people. It's not going to net a result. The only net that will come from that is strife, is conflict. That's not where we want to be. Contention is not where we want to be. We can talk about ideas, we can talk about things, but unless we get into the relationship, that value is not going to change for the other person. Therefore, it's really not worth your time. So if that social experience is a one-to-one thing, we have a far greater opportunity that can actually change. That can be something different. Why? Because we're going to value that individual far greater if they're right in front of us. Research is very clear on this. What you want to consider is this really worth it? And who really cares? If it's something that you don't care passionately about, it's not worth your time. I promise it's simply not worth your time. Don't go there. You want to maximize your social experience, but really, again, your personal experience, your private experience are really where you want to spend the majority of your time. Your social experience, that's kind of the leftovers. So treat it as such, value it as such, and move forward in that way. Thank you so much again for being with me. I'll see you on the next Privacy Podcast.